Look, America's got all the chips here, really, when it comes down to it. We can get Vladimir Putin to do much of what we would like him to do. I would like to see Trump follow through on one of his previous ideas that I think the only chance of actually getting all that Ukrainian territory, short of Crimea, you're not getting Crimea, but the rest of the territory, I think you could work out a deal where the U.S. pulls out of NATO.
In this video, Dave Smith takes on the entire panel on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Dave Smith, a well-known passionate advocate for the U.S. getting out of all wars, suggests that not only should we do that, but also disband NATO. With that, let's watch Dave Smith crush Piers Morgan's panel with common sense.
My guess is that the Arab nations will say, right, we will let America rebuild Gaza. The Palestinian people will not be all forced out. The ones who want to stay will be able to stay. But it has to be as part of a two-state solution pathway that is specifically laid out and has a timeline. I suspect that may be how this ends up. Anyway, we'll see. I want to just change to another war briefly. And let me start with you, Dean, on this one. This is Ukraine. Donald Trump has revealed he's had a very productive call with Vladimir Putin. He said, we talked about the strength of our respective nations and the great benefit we'll someday work together. But first, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia and Ukraine. President Putin even used my strong campaign motto of common sense. We both believe in it strongly, adding they've agreed to start negotiations immediately and that he will notify Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of the conversation. And that apparently is going to happen imminently. So there's movement there. I interviewed President Zelensky last week, and it was clear that he also is prepared to sit around a negotiating table and try and resolve this. But what is your reaction to Donald Trump and his announcement about talking to Putin?
He should talk to both sides. I'm all for that, 100%. But I say that with President Trump's leadership, that war in Ukraine will be over for the end of this calendar year. And I think that's what everybody wants, since what President Trump has said himself. It's like, I want to stop the killing. I want to stop people from dying. And that war, I believe, wholeheartedly will be done by the end of this year. Whatever the concessions are, I don't know, but it's going to be done, and people will stop dying, and that'll be a conflict that we've needed to end. There's so many people who have been killed there.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
And I'll be celebrating when it is over, and it will be over by the end of this year.
Dave Smith, my concern with this is that the only way I can conceivably see this getting resolved anytime soon is that Vladimir Putin gets to keep what he's taken, as he did with Crimea. I just don't see that the Ukrainians have enough strength or enough resolve from people like the United States now to continue the battle. And so we're left with where we are on geographic lines, which means Putin really, he wins, doesn't he? He takes what he's taken again.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Look, I certainly get your point, and I think that we are there are constraints to reality. And look, I mean, even like me and Cenk, as we've been talking about this situation in Israel, I mean, both of us would probably agree that it certainly wasn't legitimate the way the state of Israel was formed to begin with, and there was a whole lot of ethnic cleansing that went on then. But neither of us are arguing. We're saying the Palestinians should have their land in Gaza and the West Bank. Neither of us are saying, like, you got to, you know what I mean? Like, because at a certain point in time, you just have to deal with the reality of the situation. Right. Where people living that is what, there is no practical way to force Vladimir Putin out of the areas that he's taken, short of the U.S. military rolling in and having a direct confrontation with Russia. And I just don't think that any of us are willing to do that so that the Donbass region is ruled by Kiev rather than Moscow. That's just not, I'm sorry, that's not worth the cost of a total war between America and Russia. I hope Dean is right. I think this is an incredible improvement from the previous administration and their rhetoric and their strategy there. And I give a lot of credit to Pete Hegseth, who also, just recently said some great things on this issue, that NATO won't be involved. Look, I know that me and you don't agree.
Look, if the only solution to the conflict in Ukraine is Vladimir Putin gets to keep all the land that he's taken, as an American and a human being, I couldn't care less what the solution or negotiation is. I, like Donald Trump, just want the killing to stop. And I don't want a dime of our money, or a dime more of our money, going to Ukraine. Those are my positions. Figure it out, Russia and Ukraine. I understand the arguments as to why people that advocate for our involvement in Ukraine believe we should be intervening the way we are, but not a single one of them makes sense to me. Why do we have to be the babysitter of the world while we neglect the American people and have more problems than you can shake a stick at here? When the U.S. is a perfect utopia, we can talk about assisting other countries, which, by the way, there are zero scenarios where all of our problems are solved. Then we can maybe talk about assisting other countries, but my position would remain the same. I'd still be on the side of let them figure their own shit out. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
On this, Piers, but I'm with Scott Horton and John Mearsheimer on this. I think that U.S. Foreign policy and particularly NATO enlargement, color-coded revolutions, I think we did a lot to provoke this conflict. And I think that much like Israel in the Middle East, look, America's got all the chips here, really, when it comes down to it. We can get Vladimir Putin to do much of what we would like him to do. I would like to see Trump follow through on one of his previous ideas that I think the only chance of actually getting all that Ukrainian territory, short of Crimea, you're not getting Crimea, but the rest of the territory, I think you could work out a deal where the U.S. pulls out of NATO. Donald Trump said it before. Why on earth are we subsidizing the defense of rich European countries? Because we worked out this agreement when they were in ashes after World War II to prevent against the Soviet Union. Well, they're not in ashes anymore. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. And there's no reason why America needs to subsidize the defense of other rich countries. So, look, I think this is a huge improvement. There probably is room for improvement even from there. And I don't know, I'm not quite as confident as Dean, but I really do hope that this war comes to an end and the killing.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reason we disagree is I wouldn't trust Putin as far as I could throw him, and I think he deeply regrets that the Soviet Union ever got broken up, and he would love to get it all restored. He sees himself as a modern day czar, is my opinion.
But Piers, he couldn't even take Kiev. So what do you think? He's rolling on Poland?
Sure, but he'll end up with he'll end up with a third of Ukraine to go with Crimea, right?
If the only way to end the war in Ukraine is to send our troops over there, sorry, that ain't happening. We're on good terms with Russia right now. Why would we want to mess with that? And speaking of that, you know, despite the left always saying Trump cozies up to dictators, guess what? Our relationship with Russia is great right now, with free-flowing, honest conversations between Trump and Putin, as far as I understand from the limited information that I have. Let's keep it that way, though. I can't get inside Vladimir Putin's head. I don't know if they're actually our ally or actually our enemy, but regardless, keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer, right? So a positive relationship with Russia is in the best interest of the United States regardless. The portrayal of Trump's relationship with Putin is an issue that pisses me off to no end. If Trump was hostile towards Putin, the left would say he's going to start World War III. But when they're on good terms, he's cozying up to a dictator. He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Can you imagine if that was a Democrat president and he had a good relationship with Putin? They'd say he's so diplomatic and he's standing up for all Americans. But with Trump, he wants to be a dictator and he's cozying up to dictators. And yeah, the United States funds 16% of NATO's entire budget with 32 countries. That doesn't seem real fair to me. And the United States pays for 70% of NATO's defense spending. Seems a little incongruent. And like Dave Smith said, it's not like we're protecting the little guy out there. We're paying for all this where there are rich European nations not paying their fair share. I think NATO is antiquated at this point. But we want to hear from you. What do you all think about the Ukraine-Russia conflict? What's your ideal scenario for it to end? Do you think the U.S. should be involved? Let us know. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.